Kings Island is about to open up their 15th roller coaster, which happens to be a brand new family Vekoma Boomerang. And while this coaster does look great for the families and younger thrill seekers, most of us are wondering what's going on at Kings Island, because we have to go back to 2020 for when the park added their last major thrill coaster. And that's pretty uncommon for Kings Island, because typically every 3 to 4 years we see a major new coaster make its way to the Mason, Ohio park. But obviously we had the pandemic happen, and now we have the Vortex plot of land sitting there just waiting for a new major attraction to be built on it. But here's the thing, are we so sure that the Vortex plot of land is where Kings Island plans to build their next coaster, number 16? And when can we expect it? 26, 27, 2028? My name is Brandon and welcome to Theme Park Predictions. And I typically make around 2 or 3 videos a year regarding Kings Island's future, because not only is this is the park I first started my career in theme park wise. I worked on the Beast in 2004 and Whitewater Canyon in 2005, but it was also my home park growing up. And not to mention, but Kings Island is one of the best overall theme parks in the entire world. So there's a lot to be intrigued by the future of this park. And there, in my opinion, there's 3 locations for the park's next coaster. Obviously, the Vortex plot of land makes the most sense because it's already wide open and it's cleared. All Cedar Fair, the new Six Flags would have to do is come in there and just basically build a coaster from the ground up. And that would save some money. And the best part is, the park would not have to remove any attractions to make way for their new coaster. And again, this area is massive. If Kings Island wanted to, they can fit a major coaster here. We're talking a B&M dive coaster, or a Vekoma tilt coaster, a Mack Extreme spinner, or it may be possibly an RMC coaster down the road, an RMC hybrid, or maybe a T-Rex. There's a lot of cool things that Kings Island could do with the Vortex plot of land. But the more, I just feel like that was always the shoe-in for the area for the next coaster. But now there's 2 other areas that I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe Kings Island kind of shifts things around and builds a new coaster in the old Son of Beast plot of land. And I know Banshee takes up a large portion of that, but they still have the station for Son of Beast just sitting there. And recently, there's always been a haunted house that was located in the station. Well, that's no more now, and the station's getting basically cleaned out, but yet not demolished. So that there's pretty intriguing for me. And if you look at the aerial maps here, there really is quite a bit of room for Kings Island to work with to build a brand new coaster in this area, because theoretically this ride could go over the Midway and run along the pathway basically in between the Bat and the Timberwolf Theater, or even cross over the Bat and use part of the land behind the Bat and the Banshee for this ride. Or even better yet, this coaster could technically interact with all of Action Zone if Kings Island really wanted to go big and bold for this style of ride. I mean, that would be really cool, because you're walking down Action Zone, you see a new coaster looming above it, you have Delirium and Banshee off to your right, the Bat in the background, Drop Tower, and then Invertigo. Now, speaking of Invertigo, I think this coaster, most of us can agree that when you look at Kings Island's coaster collection and which coaster makes sense to get removed, the soonest, I think Invertigo is on its last few years at the park. Personally, I do not see any other coaster at Kings Island getting removed before Invertigo. And while Invertigo is a good ride, I could definitely see Invertigo and Congo Falls get removed, and this area just gets freed up for a brand new coaster that interacts with the brand new front gate for Kings Island. In my opinion, this is the best case scenario, because I love Kings Island's entrance, but it does need a little bit of TLC and be a little bit more modern. So I would not mind a newer entrance, but most importantly, I would love to see a coaster interact with the new entrance of Kings Island, because the entrance is so bulky and large, it kind of blocks a lot of the views as you're walking up. But with this area here, there's a lot of different things Kings Island could do with this. And I made a video about a year ago, if Cedar Fair, since we know Cedar Fair and Six Flags love working with B&M, and what if we would see the return of King Cobra in the sense of a B&M pipeline, B&M surf coaster like Pipeline at SeaWorld Orlando. Now this will do a lot of things for Kings Island. One, you get a really fun coaster that's extremely re-rideable. Pipeline is awesome, I will say that. The layout is fun. It doesn't do a ton for me, but it's just a fun ride. It's not in my top 50 or probably not even top 75. It's just a really enjoyable ride to get off and thinking, I want to ride that again. So I think there's a lot that B&M can do with this model, and I would love it to see, King Cobra return in this plot of land with this twisted layout, interacting with the new front gate, as well as all around the midway walking into the park and where the Congo Falls and Invertigo currently sit. Again, if this coaster featured, let's say, 2 launches maybe and 3 or 4 inversions, around 3,500 feet of track, that's a huge win in my book for the park. But as far as the year and where I'm leaning as of right now, March of 2024, as far as when the next coaster comes and what type, a lot's going to be dependent on this merger. And I just feel like Kings Island's a park that Cedar Fair knows they are due for a coaster. So I really feel like 2025 could be the year. I think 2025 or 2026. I do not see 2027 or beyond the year for the park's next major coaster, number 16. I feel like 2025 makes the most sense because Cedar Point's obviously not getting a coaster in 2025, the year after Top Thrill 2. So I think Cedar Point has a pretty good chance of getting a new coaster in 2026. And I do not think it makes much sense for both parks, Cedar Point and Kings Island, to get new coasters in the same exact year. With that being said, it is very interesting because you have 2025 is going to be a very big year for Cedar Fair properties and parks because Canada's Wonderland is getting their brand new B&M wing coaster or inverted coaster, and then obviously Kings Dominion's getting their B&M wing coaster. So there's already 2 parks in the chain that's getting a coaster. We already know Valley Fair is rumored to be getting a new coaster in 25, 26. Carowinds is getting a new family coaster in 2025. So does it make sense for Kings Island? Again, I think 2025, me personally, makes more sense than 2026 does. And I feel like Vortex Plot of Land still has the best chance of a new coaster going there first. Just because, when you're walking around the park, you notice that there's something not there anymore. And, if Invertigo is still in good, maintenance-wise, has some good life to it, I don't see that ride going anywhere for at least a couple more years. Congo Falls, those type of water shoot rides, parks are ripping them out pretty frequently. So I do not see that being around over the next 3 years or so. So if I think Kings Island is definitely going to get a new coaster 25 or 2026. But then it would not surprise me at all if they see another coaster maybe 2 years after, so maybe 28, 29, the park get their next coaster. So I really feel like the Vortex Plot of Land will get the next coaster, and then possibly the front gate area in Congo Falls and Invertigo. As for Son of Beast, I'm not really sold on that location. That station's really high off the ground. The terrain there's a little more difficult to work with, and it's already kind of clustered with the Bat and the Banshee. But who knows? I could be wrong. But as far as what coaster I want to see, I would love to see a Mack Extreme Spinner open at Kings Island. I just think that would be a really perfect fit and give the park a potential number 1 or top 10 worthy coaster. But it's probably going to be like a B&M dive coaster or surf coaster, something for B&M. However, with that being said, it could also come from Zamperla because we know Cedar Fair and Zamperla are working together on Top Thrill 2. And all signs are pointing to both of those companies working together a lot over the next few years. And if that being said, we could see a new multi-launch coaster come from Zamperla. So, as you can tell, I'm kind of all over with my thoughts on Kings Island because honestly, you don't know with this merger, so everything's kind of up in the air. I personally think Kings Island needs a new multi-launch modern coaster more than any other type of coaster out there, whether that's from Vekoma, Zamperla, Intamin, or whoever. I think that would be the best fit personally, but enough about me. What about you? And if you're curious as to how I rank the coasters at Kings Island, then this video right here is just for you, because I guarantee you my rankings are going to shock you. With all that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments and what type of coaster you think is coming to Kings Island next. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to smile today, think positive, and of course, keep riding coasters.